Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris, and this is the weekly Spinner Rack, where I'm going to talk about the latest comic book news of the week, as well as the latest comics that have come out. Not a lot of comics for me to talk about, and while there's some really interesting news, maybe not as much as I have every week. So I'm hoping that I can get it done with enough time to have a chunk of time at the end to just draw and take questions from the audience. That would make me happy. That's my goal. We shall see how that goes. Let me give some shout outs to some folks that are jumping into the live chat. Just love to give shout outs. I know I'm not catching everybody, but I appreciate you all being here. There's also a little bit of a delay. So you're sort of like, yeah, me reading this stuff versus you typing, there's a delay. But yeah. Oh, good. Hey, Jean, glad that you could be here. That's my sister. That's always exciting. Love to see some familiar names as well as new names. That's great. That's great. Thank you. Your birthday is December 5th. Well, happy day before your birthday. Time to enjoy the news. Yes. Show them Joes. There's a couple G.I. Joes back there that were like props when I interviewed Joshua Williamson. That looks like a pretty cool t-shirt, Chris. Thanks. Yeah. An Astro Boy shirt that I got on my trip to Japan. Sort of a nice outline of them. I guess you can't see it that well on the screen, but there's just sort of internal mechanics of Astro Boy in a sort of a very light white color against an off-white shirt. So that's fun. I had something pretty cool happen. What was it? Wait, was it just last night? What's today? Monday. Yeah. All right. So this was fun. Tell you what, let me throw up the news here because, okay, so there's the thumbnail. Cool. Got it. Some clickbaiting. Hello, Daniel. This is going to be good. This is something cool that happened to me. I won a pair of awards, or Comic Tropes did, but Comic Tropes is me. But I'm just saying that the show won a pair of awards. There's a nice little organization that this guy you see on screen, Brian. He started the Comic Book Community Awards 3 years ago, and basically, I don't quite know the whole nomination process, but I do know that once people are nominated, it's up for people to vote on, and so thank you, folks. I won something for favorite channel that has over 5,000 subscribers, and I also won what they call their Lifetime Achievement Award. And so that's like a channel that's been around for over 3 years. So that was really fun. I've never really won an award before. So, it's modest, but I really appreciate what these guys are doing. It's a very, very positive show, very nice environment, giving a lot of attention, honestly, to a lot of the smaller, newer, and up and coming comic book channels out there. So, you can look this up on YouTube if you want. Comic Book Community Awards 2023. They did a live stream. And what was funny is, wait, I just want to acknowledge this. I was nominated for an Eisner back in 2011. I'll just throw that out there because not a lot of comic tubers that got an Eisner nom. Anyway, so I knew that they were doing the show. I knew that I was potentially up for some awards, but I work on the weekends, and I'm working, and the show started like about an hour before I was off, and I didn't think it was super realistic that I would be available to potentially say anything, but I was. I lucked out. It got really quiet at work. Sun goes down early. Not as many people are shopping for cars right now. I'm a car salesman. Not many people are shopping for cars in December because they're saving their money for, presents and stuff like that. So it got really quiet, and I got on the stream and I saw that it was almost time for my category. So I just took a 15-minute break that I'm entitled to, walked outside, and was like, I was able to give a small acceptance speech for this first award. And then I drove home. and I was home, so I jumped because the stream was still going, and this was the last award. So then I was available like right here to give another acceptance speech. So anyway, that was funny. That was just I don't know. Maybe I'm making too big a deal of it. I'm flattered, and I encourage you guys to check this out because you might discover some cool new channels. There's a lot of different types of awards on like sort of different levels of subscribers, and just sort of acknowledging new and upcoming people. So I think that that's a really positive type of thing to help build a community around here. And I think all of you guys that like show up for a show like this, are really positive people for the comics industry. You love the medium, you like to talk about the craft and about like where stories are going, but I don't see a lot of negativity. So I really like that. There was not a category this year for biggest Paste Pot Pete fan, but if they want some ideas for next year, thank you, EJ. That's nice. Yeah, thanks for being in there, Legion of Comics. That was really fun. It's called Comic Book Community Awards. If you Google that, or if you look it up on YouTube, you should find it. The host is this guy that says Brian-LCS. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get past all that stuff about me and talk about some comic book news, because there is definitely some big, interesting things this week. I wanted to start with this because Doctor Who is back. And what's cool about Doctor Who, beyond just how much I like Doctor Who, is that for the 60th anniversary, they're making 3 specials. The first 2 have come out. The next one is this coming Saturday. And the first one was based on a comic book. And it was a really great comic book. I am aware of it. I did own it, and I want to talk about that. I haven't talked about that yet, but thank you for the super chat. I think that's like the second or third piece of news that I'll get to. So I will talk about Nightcrawler. So if we look here, there were Marvel produced this. Marvel Comics had Marvel UK, a division where they would like do reprints and a few original comics and stuff like that. And they got the rights from the BBC to create Doctor Who Weekly, which eventually turned into Doctor Who Monthly. It was a magazine, and initially it was full of a lot of comic strips. One of the 2 main writers when it started, a guy named Pat Mills. A lot of you may have heard of him because, he's co-created characters in British comics like Slanya, a barbarian warrior, ABC Warriors. He wrote a lot of Judge Dredd in the first year. Didn't create Judge Dredd, but did write a lot of it in the first year. Created a lot of important story arcs, like the Cursed Earth story arc. He's done some American comics. I wouldn't say like as big, except for Martial Law. Martial Law made a bit of an impact in the 80s. So, so we've got like Pat Mills here, and he wrote a comic called The Star Beast back in 1980, and it was published by Marvel, and that's cool and everything. Now Marvel doesn't have the rights to those because, it ultimately is with BBC, and BBC is given the rights to Panini Comics. So this right here, the 4th Doctor anthology, is a Panini reprint edition of those comics that came out like just within the last year. And Pat Mills says, guess what? He didn't get paid any royalties for that comic, although he did get paid a lot by the BBC for like making a TV adaptation. Thank you again for the super chat, Ghost of Speedy. I will talk about Nightcrawler and give my opinions shortly, but thank you for the super chat. That's really, really nice. Yep, just known as Doctor Who Magazine nowadays. And it's not Marvel anymore. Again, it's a British company, Panini. But I just thought that was interesting. Like this is Pat Mills talking about it. He's like, I've nothing but praise for the BBC, Bad Wolf, that's the production company for Doctor Who. Russell, that's the TV showrunner, Russell T. Davies, that also co-wrote, or really wrote the adaptation of the TV version of The Star Beast. David Tennant, the star of Doctor Who, and the production crew on Star Beast. They were all brilliant. But the original comic publishers, and by that he really sort of means Panini, no surprise, don't come out of it so well. I didn't get a bean in comic royalties. And then he had a follow-up. What is it about British comic publishers? Is it a malfunction in their moral compass? Needs a repair, maybe with an appropriate insertion of a sonic screwdriver. Wild. Look, they're even using his story arc right here on the cover of this anthology, and he gets no royalties. Uh, doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem right. Hmm. I don't know. I'm sure it was all work for hire, basically, but Marvel used to have like a default. They didn't call it a royalty program at the time, to be clear. They didn't want to sort of like assign rights like that. They called it an incentive program. And if you sold a certain number of issues, they would give you a bonus that they said they were never like obligated to, but they did it. It was known, and it was a step forward in paying people fairly and assigning rights a little bit more fairly in around 1980. They do even a little better now, but anyway. Yeah, and so anyway, look, I'll have a little bit more to say. I'm nearly done editing an episode. I'll just let you guys know since you're here. It's specifically about the Star Beast. It was drawn by Dave Gibbons. Yeah, Watchmen and Martha Washington Goes to War. That Dave Gibbons. He was the Doctor Who artist. So the talent involved is incredible. Incredible. I recommend reading it, by the way. But there'll be a Comic Tropes episode about it very soon. I'm excited to talk about it. So, this was definitely a big retcon that happened in comics this week. So I thought it was worth addressing. At the same time, this was the original idea for the character. Cy Spurrier is one of the X-Men writers right now. He wrote this issue that came out this week, X-Men Blue Origins. This is Nightcrawler. He's currently going around as the Uncanny Spider-Man. I haven't been keeping up with the book. I have no idea why. But if we go back here, this panel down below is from X-Men number 142. As I recall, I didn't double check, but I'm pretty sure that was part of the two-part story Days of Future Past. And that was the first time Nightcrawler and Mystique came across one another. And as you can see, there's some discussion of like how they know each other. There's something familiar. Not that they know each other, but there's something familiar. He's like, your skin, your eyes. If this is indeed your true form, my God, we are so alike. And she knows his name. He's like, you know my name? Who are you? Ask your mother, Margali Sardos. That was the German woman that raised Nightcrawler, but was not his biological mother. So this was over the years, we've heard from other X-Men writers, John Byrne, Scott Lobdell. They've talked about how Chris Claremont, when he wrote this, he had an idea that Mystique and Destiny were going to be lovers and that Nightcrawler was their child. But in 1980, Jim Shooter didn't really love having any gay content. That was pretty much a no-no. It's something John Byrne is not too happy about, to be honest. He did not get along with him there. But Cy Spurrier has basically done a retcon and said, yeah, that original idea, that's the truth. He's retconned it, saying that Mystique is his father, basically, because Mystique is a shapeshifter. And supposedly she has the biology to have made little baby Nightcrawler here with Destiny. Maybe it was out there for 1980, but that was apparently, according to other people like John Byrne and Scott Lobdell, they've said that was Chris Claremont's original idea. Wasn't able to be pushed through at the time. And now we're like 40 years later, and it's a different era. And I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it was hinted from the beginning, and that now we've got this really cool bit of a connection between an important pair of X-Men villains and the character of Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is a demon as far as you care. Well, that's fair, but you're not the guy that created the character or is writing it. So I don't know. I like this a lot more than Azazel as the father, to be honest. I find this more interesting. It's more tied into the mythology. I never really dug the character of Azazel. He's basically like, yeah, this demon teleporter. But then again, I think I've made clear, unfortunately, I did not love the Chuck Austin era of X-Men. it's all out there. As far as how much any writer or era of X-Men or any comic is canon, it's up to you. It's up to you. Let's see. Yeah, X-Men's always been a fairly progressive comic, so it makes sense. Nightcrawler's entire character arc is that he's not a demon and hates being viewed as one. That's true. I will say that like one of the better like ideas was when he like wanted to be a priest, but at the same time that kind of like took him away from the action and everything. So I'm glad that they've sort of moved on. Is everybody going on about this retcon? I'm not 100% sure. I thought it was a big enough character moment to include as news, but I haven't necessarily seen a ton of news articles about it, so I don't know. It's not really a retcon if it's the original idea that just wasn't allowed. Basically, yeah, it just took a while to get there. I really admire Chris Claremont, yeah, he had a lot of really cool character stuff for all of the X-Men. And really I you know what? I don't give him enough credit. Like his dialogue has like a lot of repeating sort of phrases and stuff, but he did give everybody like all of his characters in X-Men a different sort of background and educational level, and they talked a little bit differently from each other in that regard. I remember you telling me she was Nightcrawler's mom when we were kids. It was always hinted that that was a possibility. So like it wasn't ever confirmed back then, but like eventually they did confirm that Mystique was one of his parents, and then they said like Azazel was like the father, but now they've retconned that, saying Azazel was lying, and Mystique was a parent, but wasn't the mother, was the father. It's crazy. I think that's pretty crazy. So that was one piece of news. Let's talk about some more Marvel news. Honestly, though, there's a couple parts of Marvel news that aren't great this week. This Avengers Incorporated book, I have to admit, I didn't pick it up. So maybe I'm part of why this one failed. It sounded like an interesting premise, but I guess it wasn't interesting enough for me to pick up. So I don't know. But Avengers Incorporated, to be clear, this was a new comic. Writer Al Ewing, who I've talked up, man, his Immortal Hulk run, fantastic stuff. His current Immortal Thor run, really, really strong. Al Ewing seems to be a really cool writer. Teamed up with artist Leonard Kirk, and it was following Wasp and Vision in his civilian identity of Victor Shade, and they were basically operating a detective agency. So we shall see where that goes. It goes nowhere. There was no solicitation for issue 6. This series basically just launched. So somebody asked Marvel's executive editor, and also he's the senior VP, Tom Brevoort. They asked him about it on his Substack, and he had this as a quote: "Unfortunately, Cathal, there weren't enough like you, so we will be wrapping up the series with issue 5. Basically canceled pretty early. Is what it is." Yeah, who did the covers? I don't think that that's Leonard Kirk. I didn't look it up. Anyway, I'm gonna have to read it at some point because I like Al Ewing. But this one just didn't grab people for some reason. You were liking that book? Daniel Acuna was doing the covers, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, I can almost see it here. I can almost see it. The book is great. I've only heard good reviews for what it's worth. The people that read it liked it, but apparently there weren't enough of it. And I guess I was part of that because I also just didn't pick it up. But you know what? I can't pick up everything. But I should have given a chance to Al Ewing. I should have. I thought Al Ewing has enough fans to float a book like this. I would have thought. I did not see that there was a trailer for GTA 6, but I'm not surprised to hear that there was, because if you guys didn't know, this past weekend was the biggest Comic-Con in the Americas, CCXP, which happens every December down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'd love to attend that one someday. And so if you saw that there were trailers for things like, I don't know, Fallout and Furiosa, Godzilla Kong 2, like kind of like that. There were a bunch of trailers that came out this weekend. It's because they all got like sort of released and talked about at CCXP. It's a really big convention. I'd love to go to it someday. I'm hyped for Furiosa too, but I'll tell you, it's mostly because of George Miller. I don't think that guy's ever made a bad movie. Our Babe, Pig in the City, that's a good movie. I never saw Happy Feet, to be fair, but I like all of his Mad Max stuff. Yo, Steve Sorensen, thank you. I missed this book, The Cons of Trade Waiting. I don't think that's a bad way to read comics, though. I think that that's a cost-efficient and satisfying way to read a story, so you can't blame you. Didn't see that one. George Miller is one of the greatest living directors, and Babe 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time. Nice. Come to Brazil, I'll be your guide. Oh, are you down in Brazil? I'd love to visit. Chrissy and I were planning on going to Brazil. I think it would have been December of 2019 was when we were thinking of it for 2020. Excuse me, 2020. I remember now because the pandemic kind of canceled that. And now we have to think about it again someday. Moving on. Iman Vellani has just written her first series of comics. She co-wrote her character, Ms. Marvel. She did a 4-issue limited series that apparently did well because Marvel just announced that she's gonna again co-write a second Ms. Marvel limited series. And I honestly think 4-issue limited series are a smart way to go with some of these sort of, they're still like B-level characters, right? They're the Spider-Mans and the Thors and the, Wolverines. Do a 4-issue story, get a story complete. You can get 4 issues out. If it doesn't do well, no harm, no foul. If it does do well, like the first one, cool, you roll out another one. Hellboy's kind of done that for a long time, to be honest. Like, although it's more based on when Mike Mignola has a good idea for another story, but I always appreciated that Hellboy did it in like little chunks, little arcs. So, again, Iman Vellani is paired again with Sabir Pirzada, who was a writer on the TV show Ms. Marvel. And of course, Iman Vellani is the star. She plays Kamala Khan. So they just wrapped up The New Mutant this past week. The team is going to co-write a second limited series. Let me acknowledge this. Thank you, Steve. I buy trades. It is cost-effective and easier to organize. Totally want to go to Brazil Comic-Con and totally do an episode on Brazilian comics, please. I'd like to. I will get that. I will get there. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's really nice of you, Izzy. I did not pick up the new Luke Cage, although the cover looked really good. So, what's this one about? The second one is called Mutant Menace, which gives you a hint of what it's about. It's going to be another 4-issue limited series. And this time, Kamala Khan, in the first book, she went sort of to college to work undercover for the X-Men to root out some like anti-mutant people. But it ends with her getting outed as a mutant publicly. Okay. So in Mutant Menace, she's going to return to Jersey City. That's where she and her family are from. And she's dealing with the fallout of being publicly outed as a mutant. She had really started becoming a beloved superhero, but in the Marvel universe, mutants are rarely loved. They're hunted and feared. I guess that was it. So anyway, that's something that's coming out, but I guess I wanted to tag team with that. You just saw a glimpse of it. Let's be clear. You can't argue with the numbers. The Marvels definitely bombed, and Disney gave a specific indication to that this week. That doesn't mean that I'm saying it's a bad movie, by the way. Personally, I like the Marvels. I'm going to put that out there. And I didn't just sort of like, yeah, it was okay. I thought it was a really good movie. I think down the road, it may be remembered more fondly. I really do. Maybe I'm crazy for that. I feel like people are going to come around because I feel like the user reviews for Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel 2 were strong. But let's go over the numbers here. I started out the show. I won a pair of awards from the Comic Book Community Awards. So I'm very grateful to them for having it and my audience for voting. That's really nice. Disney has announced that they're going to stop reporting on the box office for the Marvel's theatrical run. Companies do that when they feel it's towards the tail end of, a theatrical run, that the numbers aren't important enough to have people track. And they're doing that before the holiday season. Maybe there's a chance this gets a bump, but maybe something like Aquaman 2 just pushes that out of the way. I don't know. Here's what they earned. $80 million domestically, $197 million worldwide. It is easily the lowest box office of any MCU entry. And I'm sure Marvel and Disney are a little nervous about that with, stuff like Ant-Man 3 also underperformed, probably lost some money for them. This one definitely is going to lose some money. I liked it, but, that's a fair comparison. I have to admit, I'd also give something like Shang-Chi a B+. I'd give the Marvels a B+. That's what I'd do. Maybe somebody else, not so much. I respect that people's mileage varies. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. I liked Ms. Marvel in it a lot. She's really entertaining. There's an interesting quote that came out this week from Disney's CEO, Bob Iger. I don't agree with his take on why this movie didn't do well, but this is his take, okay? He was at a New York Times event, some sort of a book event this Thursday, and he blamed the movie not doing well on its lack of studio executives working on it. Here's his quote. The Marvels was shot during COVID. There wasn't as much supervision on set, so to speak, where we have executives that are really looking over what's being done day after day after day. I disagree. I disagree that would have made the movie better. I think that the movie was good. I think it's hampered by a changing experience in terms of less people go to see the movies. No question. There are some movies that still are doing well. Barbie and Oppenheimer did well. But you need the right marketing behind it. People are definitely still, they'll go to the movies, but they go to less. And, they weren't able to do as much marketing because there happened to be both a writers and an actors strike right up until it launched. So they weren't able to have the people that worked on it go on like the late night talk shows. And that sounds maybe old fashioned, but that does put it in mainstream America's like viewpoint. Like, for instance, there was a movie I wanted to see. Oh yeah. Dumb Money. Dumb Money was that movie where like Paul Dano stars as the guy that recommended the GameStop stock, and a bunch of, ordinary folks bought the GameStop stock and pissed off the hedge fund managers who ended up losing billions because they were betting on it to fail. That was a movie that I was like, oh, I want to see that one. Just like a day or two ago, I found out that came out back in September. I just hadn't heard about it. So sometimes this stuff isn't on people's radar. Well, thanks for being on the same page with me, Jeans. I appreciate it. No, they have not specifically said what her mutant power is. That's still a little vague. Like is her hard like projectiles her mutant power, or is it something else? Could still be defined differently. But there'll probably will be a second season of the Ms. Marvel show, and I bet they'll go into it there. Oh, you saw it? Dumb Money was great. I just like the stock. Yeah, that looks good. It was. Oh, this person says it was only okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a little harder sometimes though to know that these movies have come out because they weren't able to promote them the same this past year. Thank you, Steve. One reason why I think Marvel movies aren't doing well, too much overlap with Disney Plus series. So in order to understand movie, viewers need to do homework. I think that's at least the perception. I agree with you that I think that that's the perception. I I think that they recap anything important so that you can like, I think if you went into the Marvels and hadn't seen any of the TV shows or anything, I think you'd get it. I really don't think it's that confusing. You might go like, "Oh, cool, I get to see Kamala's family again, and I already know their dynamic," so it's maybe a little funnier or a little more emotional. Yeah, you're right, The Creator was a good movie. That bombed, but it also was made for a really efficient price, so that might make its money back. Uh, probably there are a few profitable ones, but a lot did bomb this year. That was just the trend in 2023. Not many things made its money back. Fast X bombed. Uh, what else? Oh, you know what will make it has made money? The new Godzilla movie from Toho, Godzilla minus one. It's fantastic. That'll be in my top 10 movies of the year. Probably my second favorite Godzilla, at least in the top three. Is it better than Shin Godzilla or the original? Those three will bounce around. I like all those. I love Godzilla movies in general, but minus one is fantastic. That was made for something like $15 million, but it looks epic. It looks fantastic. we're we're thinking of the same stuff here. Yes, it obviously didn't bomb because it was made for a good amount. Now, I guess you could argue that maybe Japan doesn't compensate its creative people as much, but the writer and director of Godzilla is also the FX director. He's like got a huge background in visual effects. So I think that that like really helped manage the budget because he was there every step of the way and he knew how to do it in a very cost efficient way. But it looks great. There's a scene where Godzilla is swimming after this tiny wooden boat on the open ocean. I'd never seen something like that in a Godzilla movie before. It was legit kind of scary. Godzilla is an actual scary monster in this one. It's so good. So good. Yeah. A lot of people saying that they liked it. Good. We'll move on. The bottom line is this movie will take a long time to make its money back, if ever. There are still ancillary revenue streams for all movies when you license it out to streaming and Blu-ray, and maybe several years down the road, some of these movies get into the black, but who knows? Yeah, yeah, isn't that interesting? That's true. The creator also like had a very efficient budget for the scale it was at because the director was a visual effects guy. No, that's Gareth something else. The raid is I forget. I forget. It's a different Gareth, I believe. Sorry, it's not coming to me. We'll move on. As long as I'm talking about as long as I'm talking about Marvel movies, Taika Waititi gave some comments. Oh yes, thank you, Gareth Evans. Gareth Evans. Yes, thank you, Gareth Evans. Um, who's a great director, by the way, too. God, I want him to do another martial arts movie. All right, let's talk about Taika Waititi and Thor. Oh, hold on. Let's acknowledge this. Hello. Thank you for this, Mr. Nick Barucci. What did you have to say? Wanted to jump in and congrat Chris running to dinner, but wanted to chime in and ask everyone to please hit the thumbs up for Chris. He brings a lot of great shows each and every week. If you can hit the like button, that rocks. Likes are free. Support is priceless. Nick, thank you. Thank you. I think there are some people in comics that I think are just nice people, and my experience is that Nick is a very kind person, and he gave me the opportunity to do that Vampirella cover, and I'm grateful for it. And there's some exciting stuff we've been talking about just on this show that Dynamite's doing. Obviously, they've got all the Disney stuff coming out. Lilo and Stitch is one I'm curious about because that's one of my favorite Disney movies. Also, they got Garth Ennis to write James Bond. That's coming up. So, you know, with $100, I'll throw in some free plugs. It's like the least I can do. That's very kind of you, Nick. Very, very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you have a lovely dinner. And I hope I get to see you again sometime, like a New York convention or something, or if, Dynamite ever starts traveling again, let me know, because I'd love to say hello again. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll get back to the news. I thought this was interesting. I like Taika Waititi okay as a director. I really liked a pair of movies. Let me think. Of course, What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People. I like those two a lot. And I thought that Thor Ragnarok was good. Jojo's Rabbit was good. And then there's sort of like another step down when you get to like Eagle versus Shark. It's entertaining, like Thor Love and Thunder. It's entertaining. It's not my favorite. But I love a lot of stuff that he's done. The latest soccer movie didn't have good reviews, so I have to admit, like, I decided I'd wait for streaming on that one. We'll see. But he basically said he took the Thor job for the money, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily, because Thor Ragnarok was a very fun, cool movie. But Thor 4? So he was on Smartless. If you haven't listened to that, by the way, Smartless is a really interesting and funny podcast. That has friends Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and I'm blanking because I'm bad at names. The guy from Will and Grace. Oh my God, why Sean? One of you will help me out. Sean, I'm forgetting his name. But anyway, very funny podcast where each week one of the three surprises the other two with a celebrity guest that they've brought in, and they do an interview. So one of them is prepared, two of them are improvising their questions. Sean Hayes, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It was just eluding me. Smartless. You told me about it, Gene. You're the one that turned me on to the Smartless podcast. It's a really good podcast. It's funny, the banter that they have with each other. And if you have HBO Max, they did sort of a documentary series of them traveling with the podcast around the country. It's really funny and interesting. So anyway, Waititi was on the Smartless podcast, and he revealed why he decided to write and direct the Thor movies. I just took his quotes. This is interesting. You know what? I had no interest in doing one of those films. It wasn't on my plan for my career as an auteur, but I was poor and I just had a second child. And I thought, you know what? This would be a great opportunity to feed these children. You can't get mad at somebody for that. I mean, it's not a good creative reason to take it, but at the same time, I think a lot of us would agree that Thor Ragnarok is arguably the best of the four Thor movies. I mean, the only one you could really argue is like the first one if you were really into like everything getting set up. I mean, it did have a really good performance by Loki and stuff. But here's another quote that he had. And Thor, let's face it, it was probably the least popular franchise till recently. I never read Thor comics as a kid. That was the comic I'd pick up and I'd be like, ugh. And I did some research on it, and I read one Thor comic or 18 pages or however long they are. I was still baffled by this character. Well, you made at least one of them work. Yeah, the second one, I'd say Thor 4 was entertaining. It just was also, it was like wasted potential. If you cut out a little bit more of the humor, it might have been a little more streamlined. And you had a great villain there, Gore the God Butcher in the comics. I mean, I made an episode about it because I think that like that was a really interesting villain with really unique motivation. And Christian Bale gave a good performance as Gore, but it was such a small role. Like you didn't get to know the villain that well in the movie. They adjusted his motivation a bit. I felt it weakened the character. And who knows, maybe if somebody loved Thor a little bit more, they could have done a better job on the fourth one. But at the same time, it's like that franchise might have ended after the second one if the third one wasn't any good. And the third one was really good. So it's, I don't know. It's all a balancing game. It's all a balancing game. It was a granola bar of a movie. Oh, that's interesting. I don't really know too much about the behind the scenes on What We Do in the Shadows. Um, hmm. Gareth Edwards for Thor 5? Sure. Yeah, I'd sort of agree. I think Christian Bale, if you could have cut out a little bit more of like some of the comedy stuff with, say, like Korg or something like that, and given that time to Gore the God Butcher, and like showed him killing gods and Thor basically being on a quest. That should have been a quest movie, and you could have had Jane Foster. I like the inclusion of Jane Foster, but it was just sort of messy. He needs to read Donny Cates' excellent Thor run. I've heard that. George Miller. George Miller at one point was going to direct a Justice League movie. He had the whole cast assembled. They did readings down in Australia before Warner Brothers pulled the plug. But it was basically an adaptation of the Grant Morrison JLA story arc where the White Martians, who are enemies primarily of the Martian Manhunter, they came to Earth disguised as new superheroes. And then they got a hold of Batman's files showing the weaknesses of every superhero. And that was going to be the movie. Like Lex Luthor sort of sends out a signal looking for something powerful enough to stop Superman. He comes across the White Martians. They come to Earth. And all of a sudden the Justice League has one for one enemies that they have to fight, super speedsters and so on. That would have been really cool. Yeah, that Justice League movie got killed by the previous writer's strike. That's right. Maybe not the perfect cast for it, but it looked interesting. It looked interesting. There's probably some YouTube videos already up there about that. If there's not, then I'll make one. But if there already is, then I probably won't repeat it. But I bet there is. I've read if I didn't read the full script, I at least read a very detailed synopsis of it back in the day. It was a long time ago now. Still speaking, I guess, about some MCU stuff. The Loki show creator and showrunner is going to write the next Avengers movie. That's not a bad choice. We're talking about Michael Waldron. He's been appointed to write Avengers Kang Dynasty, and that's currently slotted for May of 2026. So we are still looking ahead by 2.5 years there. If you're not familiar with Michael Waldron, here's some of the stuff that he's done for the MCU already. He was the one that had the idea for the Loki TV show, was the showrunner for season 1. He also wrote Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Depending on how much you like that might, or Loki, that might give you an idea of what he can do. I liked Loki a lot. That was a good show. I think that was the best thing that Disney Plus has done for the MCU TV shows is the Loki show. Anyway, he was already set to write the 6th Avengers movie, Secret Wars, for 2027. Now they've just said, we're going to have you write both of them. He replaces previously announced, but I don't think he had written anything yet. They had hired originally Jeff Loveness. He wrote for stuff like Rick and Morty, and he also wrote Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. So he was originally going to write it. Don't think he did, but yeah. I agree. I think having the same writer write Avengers 5 and 6, since they're going to be tied together and come out just a year apart, I don't think it ever made sense to have 2 separate writers, to be honest, unless it was a writing team, but it just seems like you're inviting tonal disconnects there. I think having the same writer is hopefully a good idea. Hopefully. So we shall see. Thank you. I don't think everybody knows that Ant-Man was hidden within the word Quantumania, so I threw that in. Maybe I'm talking down to my audience by doing that. I don't know. We'll move on because I want to draw. The Boys showrunner says he wants to adapt Saga next. I love this TV showrunner. I think this is a good fit. I don't know if that will happen, but let's talk about what he did. So, The Hollywood Reporter, every year they do an annual list of the top 50 TV writer producers. And this year they included Eric Kripke. He's the guy that runs The Boys, which I do think is a very good show. Very good. Kripke said this in that article. He said that the IP, the intellectual property, that he'd most like to adapt would be, quote, Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I'm obsessed with it. So insane and so grounded at the same time. Brian and Fiona, call me. This is a good idea. I think Saga, by the way, wouldn't work as a movie. Needs to be a TV show. Possibly animated, to be honest. But anyway, if you don't know, Eric Kripke is the showrunner for The Boys. He's done a couple shows, but he also created and oversaw the first 5 seasons of Supernatural. When he created that, the goal was for a 5-season story arc, which he actually was able to complete. And while it continued for another 10 years, he had moved on. If you watch the first 5 seasons, it's very clear that it tells a complete story and ends at a certain point, and then they just sort of tack on a cliffhanger and allowed it to keep going. But those first 5 years of Supernatural are really strong. If you haven't seen them, and you're like, how did the show last 15 years? It's because of how strong the first 5 years were. They were really, really good. Anyway, Kripke followed this up, posting on Twitter that he'd take good care of the property, and he's just asking Vaughan and Staples to consider letting him adapt it. Hopefully the work on The Boys speaks for itself. So if he wants to adapt something like that, I'm all for it. No one needs to be talking about adapting Saga until it's done. Otherwise, it'll fall into the Game of Thrones trap and go downhill. That's a decent point. He is just talking. Nothing's being actively developed. And we are getting, I think, close to Saga entering its end game. But that's a good point. Game of Thrones absolutely changed once it got past the books. There's no question. Maybe then they'd make good Saga action figures. That's the hope. I'm just there for the action figures. Season 8 was cool. Of Supernatural? I liked Supernatural. I watched, I think, about 10 years. I don't think I watched the last 5, but you know what? I like it enough that I think I will someday binge it on Netflix for what it's worth. I did continue to like it, but the first 5 years were the strongest, in my opinion. There were still good episodes and good story arcs. They've always been vocally against an adaptation, haven't they? Were they? If they were, that doesn't ring a bell, but it doesn't sound wrong. So maybe you're right. Maybe they only want it to be a comic. I don't know. I do remember that. That was the weirdest thing. I was like, nobody watching this Taco Bell commercial has any idea that these 2 characters are cosplaying the leads from Saga. Nobody knows that, but they were. This needs more executives. Let's stuff some executives in there and make it good. Oh, yeah. Look it up. Look up Taco Bell Saga, and you'll probably find it somewhere. Yeah. Skybound announced something that I thought sounded pretty cool. I'll probably be picking it up because I'm a huge fan of Cory Walker's artwork, and Cory was the original artist and co-creator of Invincible, came back for a couple issues here and there. Love Ryan Ottley, don't get me wrong, but Cory is the guy that does the character designs for all the main characters on the animated adaptation. So it's going to have a lot of sort of Cory Walker artwork, and I'm looking forward to that because I like his art a lot. So the art book is going to have designs and work from the Invincible animated show that's on Amazon Prime. It will also feature commentary, I should say, by people that work on the show, including Robert Kirkman and Cory Walker, but I believe also some of the producers and writers and stuff like that. So that could be interesting. That could be really cool. It's going to be $40. Goes on sale the end of March, which isn't too far away now. I like art books usually. This just looked like one that would interest me. So I thought I'd put it on some people's radar. I think that the Invincible show is pretty darn good. The backgrounds? I don't know. I hadn't really noticed that issue, but that's a fair criticism. I just hadn't really noticed that as a problem. George Santos will be doing his original adaptation of the comic Saga. That sounds good. Yes, this book will use all the red ink. That's a good one. You guys should write for me. Anyway. Let's see. The Spider-Verse art books are mind-blowing. Apparently, Jim Mahfood is in there. Yeah, I know Jim did some work on the Spider-Verse movie. I haven't seen that art book. That sounds interesting. Wait a minute. Maybe I do have that art book. You know what? I think I have that art book, and I browsed it, and I didn't peruse it like super carefully. I'm sorry. I'm just surprising myself. I think I've got that book on a shelf. I need to read that. It's a little exciting to realize. Let's talk about the thing that I've got in the whatchamacallit, in the thumbnail. I don't love talking about something like this because I like Robert and I don't know, the behind the scenes stuff on this. I have no knowledge. I'm just reporting on a pretty big comic book news story here. Let me walk you through it. So, Bill Crabtree, if you've been reading all of Robert Kirkman's stuff, you've definitely seen his work because he was the colorist for the first 50 issues of Invincible and colored a ton of the other stuff that Robert did too. Well, he, back in January, sued Robert Kirkman, had like 3 different complaints. He argues that he is a co-creator of Invincible and is entitled to royalties on the books and the TV show. Kirkman has argued that it was simply a work for hire. And I have to admit, of course, like colorists and letterers, inkers, they bring a lot to a comic. They're not typically seen as a co-creator. It's possible. It's always possible. They're not typically a co-creator. So it's a little confusing there. Well, this week something happened. U.S. District Court Judge, and I'm going to butcher her name, Mame Owusi Mensah Frimpong. I hope I got her name right. She ruled that the statute of limitations on copyright disputes and fraud, which were 2 of the things that were alleged, had expired. Which is, by the way, I will also say that confuses me a little that, like, if Bill Crabtree had this criticism, I'm really confused why he didn't like launch this lawsuit like 10 years ago as compared to like when the TV version came out. I don't know. I'm not saying he's wrong, but it's a little confusing to me. So she said it's been too long for those 2 things, so Bill Crabtree could not request a court order stating that he was a co-author of Invincible. He just wanted a ruling, a summary judgment on that, nor can he pursue the fraud claim. However, there's still one more thing. And so right now, this judge this week set a jury trial for February 20th. Now, this could all still be settled out of court before it goes to trial, but right now it does have an actual court date. And what that would be to determine if Robert Kirkman breached an oral agreement with Bill Crabtree when he had Bill Crabtree sign a certificate of authorship that released any claim to creating Invincible. So that is something that Bill Crabtree did. And he says that like Robert told him that it was the only way it was going to get adapted into like film and TV was if he signed away these rights. And I don't know why you would do that without talking to a lawyer first, to be honest, but I don't know. It's there in point 3. He claims that Kirkman breached an oral agreement that they made. Yeah, he says that Bill Crabtree basically says that Robert tricked him into signing away his rights as a co-creator by signing a certificate of authorship, I think in something like 2011. Look, I'll probably come across as biased because you guys know that I know Robert. And so I'll put that out there. Like maybe I am biased. I just think it's very strange for a colorist to be considered a co-creator, it's possible. It's just not common. And B, it's very strange that Crabtree waited this long for a lawsuit, you know? Basically, two of the things that he was filing for, there's a statute of limitations. It's been too long. So I'm like, what lawyers have you been talking to? But who knows? You know, like there was a lawsuit between Robert and Tony Moore over Walking Dead stuff. At the same time, those guys did reconcile. Remember, Tony drew a cover for like Invincible 100 or something, which definitely came years after that lawsuit, which they settled. You know, they settled. So I don't know. It's very confusing. Holding out for the TV adaptation sounds like a problem you can solve by paying me. Maybe. Looked it up. Crabtree officially claimed a lawsuit in January 2022, less than 1 year after the show debuted. That's why I'm like, that just sounds a little suspicious that like it's a money grab situation, but I don't know that. And I don't want to accuse him of that. I'm just like, the timing confuses me. Did he like never talk to a lawyer when he signed the original contract, or when he signed later this certificate of authorship? Did he never talk to a lawyer until there was a TV show? It's possible. It's possible. Let's just say, guys, even if it's starting as indie, have a lawyer look over your contract before you sign anything. Have a lawyer look at it. From the outside, it does look like Kirkman tends to use the legalities in his favor instead of the favor of the whole creative team. Or maybe Robert talks to a lawyer and some of these other people just haven't. I don't know. I don't know anything, okay? It's a very confusing story. I find it weird to say that he breached an oral contract, but then also point out that there was an actual contract. Doesn't really make sense to me. He's saying that like the oral agreement was that like Bill Crabtree would have royalties due to him, but that like Robert had him sign something called a certificate of authorship that like agreed that Robert was, you know, the creator and that Bill Crabtree wasn't. I don't know. I wish I had a stronger opinion, to be honest. It's more of just I'm curious to see where this goes and to see if we learn anything more. So I'll put it on people's radar for now. Either way, we're not going to have to wait too long because February 20th is not far away. So like either the trial starts or it gets settled out of court somehow. But that's going to happen within what? Less than 3 months. I'm going to switch over to DC Comics, okay? DC is doing something really nice. They're honoring writer and artist Keith Giffen with their comics and with a website. So this page that you see here, that is to honor Keith Giffen. He just passed away this past October. Thank you, EJ. It does seem very strange to offer a colorist co-ownership. That it's possible. Anything's possible. It just seems strange. I don't know. Let me jump back, to this. I really like this piece. This shows a bunch of co-creations that Keith Giffen made for DC. A lot of them we know. Lobo, Ambush Bug. I think this is Elron, if I remember right. Jaime Reyes, Gnort, Maxwell Lord, The Heckler. And then I get a little confused about some of these guys back here. If I heard their names, I'd remember, but because I've seen them, but I don't remember them all. Stone Lad or Rock Lad, something like that. So anyway, some nice characters, some important characters. This art, of course, is by Kevin Maguire, who has a long history collaborating with Keith Giffen, especially on their acclaimed Justice League run alongside co-writer J.M. DeMatteis. Very cool. So, in addition to printing this image in their current comics, they launched a website that has a bunch of quotes from folks in the industry that knew Keith. It's really nice. I've got the link here in case you were curious to read some of these lovely quotes. If I was reading it, it would go for a while. Yeah, Manga Con. Let's see. Some of the people that are giving quotes: J.M. DeMatteis, Mark Wade, Paul Levitz, Colleen Duran. A lot of really, really important people. So, yeah. Worth dropping by if you ever read any of these characters, or if you read any of Keith Giffen's stuff. He created a lot for DC. He really did. Here's a little fun one. Todd McFarlane is making a statue based on comic covers, and the first one is based on one of his covers for DC. Specifically, McFarlane Toys has launched pre-orders for a 1/8 scale resin statue. I think it's resin. It might Is PVC the same as resin? I guess I don't know. Anyway, it's based on McFarlane's cover for Batman number 423. $70. $70. Comes with some sort of digital art. I don't know what that means. There's two versions. There's this one with blue, and then there's one where it's done in black. There's two different ones. But I like the idea of statues based on specific covers. I like that idea. So that's why I just sort of threw that in there. PVC and resin are different. Excuse me then. This is PVC. I think I said resin, but I think it's PVC. I'm pretty sure. Got it. Excuse me. He already makes statues and calls them action figures. Whoa, burn. Don't think Giffen gets credit for being the creative powerhouse that he was. He leaves behind great stories. He does. His stuff stands the test of time. I've made an episode about Justice League and Justice League International. Really funny and also emotional books. Hey, Randy. Have you seen the draw over explaining how that Cape Shadow works? I forget who did it, but it's the foot up there. I remember seeing that. Yeah, like somebody, what Randy's describing is, since you can't see, like, how does Batman have, like, these sort of points up here on his cape? And you think of him as just sort of standing there, but like somebody drew like an outline of his pose, and it's like his one foot is down here and his other foot is up here, like he's just sort of like doing a high kick or something like that. It's pretty funny. I wish I had that handy. I should have included it here. That would have been good. Looks super weird without the woman. Who? I'm pretty sure that this was from Batman Year 2, which had the Reaper, and that was like that was the story that was really strongly used for the movie Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So she's the daughter of the Reaper, who's this like older British guy that's sort of like Batman, but he's got like a skull mask and he's got like a scythe for a hand. She was his daughter and a romantic interest. It's hard to remember the full details. It's been a long time since I read it. It's good though. Batman Year 2 is interesting. Yeah. How about a statue for Mask of the Phantasm? Ivan Reis has a huge history with DC Comics as one of their biggest artists, and this week he announced that he's actually leaving. He's had an exclusive with them for 20 years. That is a long time. So Ivan Reis has decided to end his 20-year relationship with DC in favor of reteaming with one of his previous DC collaborators, also DC's former chief creative officer, Jeff Johns. This is going to be on a new project they've got called It Happened on Hyde Street, for, of course, Jeff Johns' new collaborative Ghost Machine. Ivan Reis's current tenure at DC is only surpassed by Jim Lee. So he's been there a long time. 20 years. It's almost hard to imagine. Like, being at a company that long these days. It's hard for me to imagine. So yeah, they're joining the new Ghost Machine Collaborative, and the series. It's going to sort of launch the horror aspect of the shared Ghost Machine universe. It says it's going to introduce strange and bizarre characters like Mr. X-Ray, which is based on those old vintage comic book ads. I made an episode on Comic Tropes about those old ads. You should see those. I think I will draw tonight. I'm getting close to wrapping up the news, and I think I will get to draw. Congratulations. Working at a place for 24 years, I hope that they're treating you well. That's amazing. So yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that. I can't claim to be hugely knowledgeable about Ivan Reis specifically. I've definitely come across his work. I mean, he's been at DC for a long time. I guess I've never focused on it, but he's certainly talented. Believe he's a Brazilian artist, by the way. We were talking about the Brazil Comic-Con earlier. I'm pretty sure he is from Brazil. So yeah, we'll see where this goes. Yeah, this was amazing. Grant Morrison posted to their Substack this week talking about pitches that they've done that have never gone anywhere, which I thought was interesting. So some of what Grant Morrison talked about was that back in 2008, they were a creative consultant for Warner Brothers movie division in what they describe as creatively fruitless, if financially rewarding. Some of the things that Grant Morrison pitched: Teen Titans, Doom Patrol, several versions of Aquaman, and a Flash movie that apparently was like being co-written with Ezra Miller. That version didn't happen. It was a different version that got made. They did say that they turned a Wonder Woman movie pitch that got turned down into the basis for this, Wonder Woman Earth 1. So if you've ever read the Grant Morrison, Yannick Paquette Wonder Woman Earth 1, that idea was originally Grant Morrison's idea for a Wonder Woman movie. Kind of interesting. Oh yeah, I also have this. They wrote a Superman pitch, and they had an intro sequence that they talk about, and since the movie didn't get made, they repurposed that to be an intro for Superman in a scene in Action Comics number 14. Let's see. Also revealed that they pitched movies to Marvel. I didn't know about that at all. I knew that they had done some of this sort of pitch stuff with DC, if not the specifics. I knew that they had done that. But listen to this. Pitched movies to Marvel for Moon Knight, Morbius, Terror Incorporated. That's an obscure one. Terror Incorporated was this 90s monster-looking dude. He could always like take off parts of his body and put on somebody else's body part and would get that body part's abilities, like an eyeball, a hand, ears, whatever. Crazy. Doctor Strange, and maybe even more weird, Warlock from New Mutants. Just Warlock, not the New Mutants. Warlock. Warlock, if you don't know, isn't a human mutant. Is part of the New Mutants, but is basically an alien robot sort of creature, like a sentient techno being. Yeah, just crazy. The Doom Patrol show ruled. I still haven't seen that. I've heard that it's supposed to be good. Not Adam Warlock. I am talking Warlock from the New Mutants. Terror. Wait, what was that? Terror Incorporated was a scary dude. Imagine fighting somebody who can steal your arms and legs. Yeah, but just kind of obscure. Did not, I think, only like maybe 12 or 13 issues of the comic, and hasn't really been seen since. So, yeah. Warlock is a bit random. Yeah, Longshot's got some cool stuff, and if we get Longshot, that implies that we'd probably get Spiral and Mojo. Spiral, Ricochet Rita, that would be cool. Moving on. Anime Expo revealed some industry highlights. Now, to be fair, I came across this news this week because Comics Beat reported on it, but they were reporting on something that happened apparently at this past summer Anime Expo. So some of you may have heard about this week. Some of the experts that they had on this panel at Anime Expo were pretty good industry insiders. We're talking about Shuhei Hasano, editor-in-chief at Shueisha's Jump Plus. We've got Ben Applegate, the director of publisher services at Kodansha USA, and David Lee, the vice president of content at Naver's Webtoon. Just some of the people. They had some really key figures in the American manga industry. Some of the takeaways. They revealed that digital sales in Japan have eclipsed print sales. I didn't know that. I knew that digital comics were growing rapidly. I didn't know that they had eclipsed their print sales. Print sales are like, while they're down from where they used to be, like the print sales in Japan are still super strong. So the idea that digital sales are even above those, that's amazing. That really makes me think that like this is a huge wave of the future that we just have to adapt and embrace if you don't want to be left behind. The best-selling manga of the year was said to be Attack on Titan Volume 1. Little surprised by that. Not 100% surprised, but I guess I would have thought like something. I don't know. I just did. Attack on Titan is something I'm aware of, but it's sort of flown under my radar. Anyway, also, they did note in this panel that Japan's population is aging. So they said manga looking forward for the next 5 years, they may have to start targeting more of an overseas audience as that population ages up to get new younger readers. So that might be part of digital comics. You could probably do translations pretty fast in terms of getting them out at the same time as the Japanese edition. We'll see. I don't think God Killer Spiderland is necessarily a comic on tons of people's radar, but it has an interesting story behind it. God Killer is like I say, sort of an indie book that's been going for several years, like 5 or 6 or so, maybe more. But it's been going for several years, and they ran into a huge snag trying to get the book printed because a bunch of Asian printers just said no for very specific reasons. Let's talk about that. So right now, if you don't know, simplifying it, God Killer is a fairly long-running indie book, and it's about sex magic, okay? Like you get magic by having sex. So it's an adult type of book. They're currently running a Kickstarter for the volume called Spiderland, but the book is called God Killer. The creators had big delays when several printers in Asia refused to print it. Why? China printers saw the book and called it anti-humanity. That was their specific quote. They were like, no, this is anti-humanity. We will not print this. South Korea's printers said that it was too LGBT, and then they explained, like they gave them a paragraph explaining, here's what LGBT means. It's like, yeah, we know. We make the book. We know. So yeah, if you don't, like, you might be asking, like, well, why are you going to, China and South Korea? Paper costs a lot less in Asia generally than it does in North America. For a long time, most things in America were printed in Canada, and some indie stuff was printed in smaller batch runs here in the States. But ever since the pandemic, especially, paper costs a lot more. There've been paper shortages where Marvel and DC have been like, this month, this book isn't coming out. It's delayed a week or two or a month. But anyway, it's still fairly inexpensive to print in Asia. Anyway, publisher Black Mask is running this book. They did find a domestic partner that will print the book, and their Kickstarter's active. They've already raised over $34,000 on a goal of $1,666. If this is your kind of thing, I put the link in there since I'm talking about it. But I just found it interesting to see that, like, yeah, it's interesting. I feel like In Europe, uh, they're way more comfortable with having sex and nudity in, British and French and Spanish and Italian comics, Belgian. It's not as big a deal, right? But then, like, we're still way more okay with it than a lot of places over in Asia. So who know? It's a scale. It's a scale. Yeah, imagine being gay splayed too by an actual country. That part like made me legit like laugh. Like, and if you are curious and you go to this Kickstarter, you can read like the quote that they had, and they were like, "This is what LGBT means." They didn't, and by the way, I'm giving it accurately. They did not call it LGBTQ or LGBTQI, anything like that. They just said like, "This is what LGBT means." Oh, thank you. So, I've got one more piece of news. Uh, there we go. Elijah Wood getting into comics. To be fair, I guess he's been in comics because he did play a character in Sin City, didn't he? He played one of the bad guys in the Sin City movie. But Elijah Wood is collaborating with Oni Press for a new imprint. Specifically, it's Elijah Wood and his production partner Daniel Noah. They have a production company called Spectre Vision. By the way, Spectre Vision has produced some good ass movies. Mandy, that is like a great, great Nicolas Cage movie. That is a great, bizarre horror movie. I love Mandy. I think it's badass. They also made A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. That's pretty good. So they're teaming with Oni, and they're dedicated to telling stories that, quote, surveil the borderlands of the paranormal experience. This is like going to be like, I guess, their first book, The High Strangeness. That's also the name of their imprint. And it's described as influenced by real documented cases of paranormal phenomena dating back to the mid 20th century, with series that bend perception far beyond the bounds of traditional science fiction and horror. Daniel Noah has a history of like believing in various paranormal stuff. So, by the way, this is a ways off. These supernatural comic stories are slated to launch 2025. So, still a ways off. Yeah, Danny DeVito made a really bad Penguin comic book. I'm in. Nice. I just thought it looked good, so I thought I'd mention it. Yeah. The Mandy movie must have had Barry Manilow do the soundtrack. Yep. It was just the song Mandy by Barry Manilow playing for 2 full hours, which you'd think would impact the horror, but about 15 minutes in, it starts getting very creepy. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is great. Yeah. So two really good movies. Something that I say sort of shows their taste. And so I'm curious. I'm curious that they're, basing this off of supposedly real documented cases. Look, I'm super skeptical. That's who I am. But that doesn't mean I can't enjoy something as a story. And if somebody else believes what they're writing, like believes that it happened, that helps me enjoy it too. So I thought it sounded pretty decent. I'm going to turn on a camera here so that I can show you a couple of the comics that I looked at this week. There weren't that many, and then we'll draw. Right? It's been a little while since we've taken some time to draw. So let's do that this week. And remove that. Barry Manilow is not scary. But Tony flew across the bar. I don't know the lyrics to Copacabana. He's starting to look like Odo from... Has Barry Manilow done too much plastic surgery? I haven't seen what he looks like. Scary Manilow. I like that one. Scary Manilow. The sequel to Mandy is Scary Manilow. Oh, man, you guys are good. All right. Oh, is this... Bear with me. I'm making sure everything's plugged in. Should be working. Let's reset. There, that's professional. Let me get this one out of the way. Why is that not pulling up? There we go. There we go. Just zooming in. Bear with me. I'm having an issue with my camera. Let me see if I can figure it out. Did I freeze? Can you guys let me know if you can still hear me? I feel like something happened just now. I did freeze. One moment. Am I back? Did I reset things? I know that I was okay. I can hear you. I can see. Oh, I can hear but can't see. Got it. Yeah. Sorry, I had to just reset something. That was very strange. Let's see. Extra camera. Let's try that again. I'm going to move something out of the way. This is what a professional YouTuber does. All right, I'm almost ready. Maybe like that. I'll zoom out a little. I have to do this manually. Folks, I only have 4 comics to talk about, okay? I didn't read a whole lot this week. But I wanted to point one out that I haven't talked a lot about, but I really enjoy. And that's this book, Sirens of the City, written by Joanne Sterer, art by Carrie Randolph. I don't say this lightly. I think this is the best artwork of Carrie's career. I just think his characters look so emotive and so different from one another. It's primarily black and white with little bits of color. It's set in 80s New York City, Manhattan, and deals with like a bunch of supernatural creatures that, just sort of like live as like gutter punks and homeless people and stuff like that. I'll just sort of jump around. I don't know. I just really wanted to show some of the art because I really think that it's a great story. Don't get me wrong, but the art is just some of Carrie's best. I mean, look, there's a thing that a lot of artists deal with, same-facedness. But if you look at these two ladies, I feel like that they don't have the same face. I think that they have different jawlines and different eyes. It's Carrie's style. They definitely have different body types if you look at it. I don't know. I just think that there's a lot that Carrie has done beautifully in here. He knows how to use negative space. Like this person walking through a pretty abandoned warehouse. That's not that much line work, but it looks so detailed and moody. There's some great establishing shots here with isometric perspectives. I'm trying to look. There was like one point where I literally just liked how he drew a character's nose. Let me see. Yeah, okay. This is so minor. But this is just an angle, and I just like what he did with the fine lines for the I'm trying to let it focus. The fine lines for the shadow on the nose. I think it makes his main character look cute. She's pretty young. She's a teenager. I think he gets that. I think he gets that across. I don't know how much you guys like it, but I think it's just a great looking book. That looks so good. Sophie Campbell's old stuff. I can see a little of that, sure. I wanted to check this out. I love the character designs that I've seen. If you haven't seen Carrie's work, Carrie has been working in comics for a long time, but there was a pretty good period of time where he worked in animation. He worked at 4Kids doing a lot of Ninja Turtles designs. If you've ever seen that, I think it was 2003 was the series at Fox. He worked on that. But yeah, anyway, just a really good book, and I thought I'd point that out. This is issue 5. I believe there's only going to be 6 issues, so it's almost over. I don't want to summarize it. I'll just focus on like that the art looks good. The art looks really good. I hadn't loved the Berserker series that Keanu Reeves created and co-wrote with Matt Kint and stuff, but I like the premise and a bit. I felt like that the main comic was both too slow and too fast. Okay, as in, it felt like it was written for the trade or something sometimes in how it was paced, but you could have alternately slowed it down by letting me have like a full single issue on, say, the villain or various supporting characters so that I understood them a little better. So I guess I just argued that the pacing was my main issue, and I had trouble following the mythology since like the pacing kind of was out of whack. So I didn't love it. It was interesting, but I didn't love it. But this is the second sort of one-shot story of the character that Keanu created for this. Something like Ute is his name. He's an immortal from like really long ago history, and the last one was done by Steve Scroce, and it featured his character going up against a Cthulhu-esque demon. This one just features him going up against well, honestly, he's the villain in this, like, because even though he's immortal and he'll like revive from anything, he also feels the need. Like it's beyond his control. He feels an impulse to go into like a berserker mode and just fight to the death. Sorry, there was a glimpse of nudity there. This is a somewhat older. But so yeah, he just kills anyone in his path when the berserker mode overtakes him. This has some nice artwork by Rebecca Isaacs. She's done some really nice stuff over the years. I think that her characters have, pretty good emotion. I think that she's a clear storyteller. Yeah, there's a lot to like about it. It's a nice 2-page spread featuring the characters going across the desert. But he's definitely sort of the villain in this. He's manipulated, and you don't feel completely bad for everyone that he kills, but this guy kills everything in his path. Men, women, and children when he goes into a rage. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, kind of a Vandal Savage type, but probably at least a little better defined. I think that Vandal Savage is, I don't know, not amazing. Let's see. Also, Mattson Tomlin, one of the writers of this issue, is going to be writing the film adaptation being developed for Netflix. I did not know that. Oh, that's encouraging. That's encouraging because I kind of like this. I liked it more than the main series, for what it's worth. Only 2 more that I want to go over. Predator versus Wolverine. You know what's good about this? You get what's advertised on the tin. It literally is just fights with the Predator and Wolverine. Okay? It just jumps around through Wolverine's history. He's got a long history. In this one, he's, being developed into the Wolverine that we know at the Weapon X facility. The Predator literally like melts his head off. It's crazy. It's pretty bonkers and everything, but you know what? At least you're getting what's advertised. It is. I wouldn't say the art is amazing, to be honest. I wouldn't say that the story is necessarily deep, but you get some badass Wolverine versus Predator. Okay, Wolverine's using his healing factor. He's going crazy. He's using his claws. There's sci-fi stuff like Wolverine clawing his way out of the Predator's spaceship and crashing to Earth. It's over the top, but you know what? If you can't be over the top with something called Predator versus Wolverine, what can you be over the top with? Do I think it's great? I'll be honest. No, it's not great. It's like a B to a B minus maybe, but maybe it's even a C plus. But it's entertaining. I was complaining complaining or criticizing the other week a book. Where was it? Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. That should just be superheroes saving the day from rampaging monsters, rampaging kaiju. It's a little of that. It's a lot less than you'd think. It's a lot of characters talking. It's very like, where's Kong? I have no idea. There's lots of like the threat of Godzilla, not a lot of actual like rampaging and destruction. I want to see over the top rampaging and destruction in this title. I don't quite get it. You at least get Predator versus Wolverine. You at least get the characters fighting and stuff. Where's and the opening pages are like sort of a linking narrative, and each issue flashes back to a different era of Wolverine's past. The first pages are, yeah, Ken Lashley, and I like the Ken Lashley stuff quite a bit. Wolverine trapped at the bottom of a riverbed under a rock, but he's really just like biding his time. Like he's gonna suffocate but he's biding his time to sort of like cloud the water with blood and escape the predator. So that's really good art. The Ken Lashley stuff's really good. All right, last book I got this week was Something is Killing the Children. Issue 35 wraps up the story arc where main character Erica has to go up against both a monster that has duplicated her and a fellow hunter who's got just as much training as her. So it's a lot of fighting, a lot of badass stuff with monsters. But here's what's tragic about it. Like Erica just stops the monster. She stops her opponent here too, you know? Okay? I'm not going to give away everything. But here, she doesn't save everybody. She doesn't save all the innocent people that she's trying to protect. It doesn't go perfectly. And that sets up a potential enemy for the future. So this is a really satisfying conclusion that also sets up some tragedy for the future, that like you can both like Erica as the main character. She does everything possible to try to save the day, but she doesn't get it perfect. And you can sort of understand where like a probable future enemy is coming from, and you can relate to that side of it too. So that's some good writing, in my opinion. Let's see. You could do Jimmy Olsen antics with Godzilla. I know. Jimmy has turned into a Turtle Boy before, which is a gigantic kaiju monster. You should have Turtle Boy going up against Godzilla. All right. Let's draw. I'd been drawing a Transformers cover, so let's go back to that. Let's see where I left off there. Am I centering this up okay? Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll move things over here a little. What do I have for tools? And I'll just try to take some questions here and there. Yeah, Godzilla versus Turtle Boy would be fun. Maybe that's too campy. That's just like a high level thing, like where I'd certainly take that over what they're giving us, which is next to nothing. Actually, I don't think I want to use this brush. Let me see what this one's like. Arts and crafts time. Art. Yeah, well, hey, Godzilla's got atomic breath. Jimmy has a shell. You're not going to see Godzilla versus Gamera, but you could see Godzilla versus Turtle Boy, which is the closest we could hope for, right? What else? Transformers versus Godzilla. I would take that in a heartbeat. Did your love for Transformers influence you to be a car salesman? No, not at all. Not at all. Um, that's just something I fell into. Mm. Thank you for stopping by, Hulkzilla. Thank you so much for the super chat. Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Do I cook? If I am being honest, these days I rarely cook. Rarely. Can I cook? Yes, I can. Have I cooked? Yes, absolutely. When I was a single bachelor, I definitely cooked so that I was not just being gross. But my wife is a very good cook, and she often volunteers. Not every time, and I don't ask her to all the time, but she does cook 95% of the time for us, if I'm being honest. I probably should cook a little bit more. If she hears this, she's definitely going to take me up on that. Did you know that Dennis O'Neil updated one of his 80s DC runs in novel form in '06 called Helltown? No, I don't think I did know that. That's a lot of ramen. Thank you. No, I would cook real food, and I had one or two specialties. First of all, I do like to grill a lot, and I think I'm pretty good at that. You know, I think you give me a piece of meat and some veggies, and I think I'm pretty good at grilling. If I'm giving myself a compliment, and then jambalaya was one that I feel like I picked up pretty well when I was living in New Orleans in college, and I feel like I can do a good job on that. But yeah, there's a couple things that I think I can do all right. I'm not a great cook, but I'm also not intimidated to just, follow a recipe and figure it out. Like, I think that anything you cook, you get a little better with and a little more comfortable experimenting with. But I've never been one of these people that's like, oh, I can't cook. I don't believe in that. I don't believe it. When was the last time you made some stir fry? I don't tend to make that much anymore, Gene, because now that I'm diabetic, I'm like, I avoid sugary things and a lot of sauces. So I haven't really done that in 2 years. Yeah. What about Sentai Devilman from the '70s versus Godzilla? Yeah. What about it? Hey, thank you for the $5. And yes, that would be great. That would be awesome. God, there's so many things I'd love to see Godzilla fight. Especially if I let's see, especially Pacific Rim characters. I think that would be so fun. Randy, are you still in the chat? My friend Randy Stone was in here earlier, and he just launched a Kickstarter for his company's next book, um, Poor Old Miss West, a horror take on Wizard of Oz. Yo, thank you. Sausage gravy that gave you diarrhea? Not quite. You're remembering part of my horror story. It was sausage biscuits. There was no gravy involved. It was just I made biscuits and sausage and ate 8 sausage biscuits and then went to see the movie Face Off, and I destroyed the movie theater's bathroom such that it started to flood, and it trapped a kid that was at the urinal in the corner, and I just sort of went, sorry, and just left and just abandoned him as he was like with the water coming towards him. He was cornered. It's the worst thing I ever did. Nice. Making stir fry right now. Made a recent dish of seasoned lentil beans with chicken. That sounds nice. That sounds nice. Godzilla versus Meg Sharknado. Ugh. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's the worst. You hold your pen like Mort Walker holds his. Oh, I was that kid. That's my villain origin story. Yeah. That's the short version of it. I've got a longer version I could tell if I was like on stage. I don't feel proud of it. but I'll be honest with you folks. I have to laugh at just how stupid I was. Oh, man. Trying to draw Megatron kind of beat up here because I'm presuming that Starscream has somehow lucked out and defeated him here. Yeah. And I would say that he's lucked out there because if I had to bet on Megatron versus Starscream, I would bet on Megatron. But for just once here, we're going to say that Starscream did something sneaky and got the upper hand. That's what we're saying here. What's your favorite Christmas song this year? That's a fun one. What is the one that I've listened to the most this year? You know which one I've listened to a bunch lately is what's it called? Julian Casablancas does a cover of it, but it was originally a Saturday Night Live song with like Horatio Sands and Tracy Morgan. I want to say Jimmy Fallon and Chris Kattan. Is it called Christmas Treat? But I think it's called Christmas Treat by Julian Casablancas. I've been listening to that a lot. I love Last Christmas. That's a great Christmas song. That's a great one. One that's definitely grown for me over the years, as I think it has for many people, is the Waitresses Christmas wrapping. Damn, that's a banger. And that was not a hit when it first came out. But I think it's remembered fondly right now. I like Mariah Carey's Christmas song, actually. That one doesn't annoy me. There are some Christmas songs that annoy me, but not too many. I don't love Paul McCartney's Simply Having Wonderful Christmas Time. Ugh. Thank you. Yep, Last Christmas is good. I love Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC. I love, yeah, I know that Christmas wrapping is your favorite. Oh, there we go. Christmas in Hollis. Yep. Gift Wrap by Dog Park Dissidents. I don't think I know that one, I'm afraid. I listen to a lot of the classics by guys like Andy Williams and Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby. Yeah, Santa Baby by Eartha Kitt. That's a good ass version. My favorite Milli Vanilli song? Probably Blame It on the Rain. The Pogues' Fairy Tale of New York is probably the best Christmas song. I gotta re-listen to that one. That's one I don't know as well. Pet Shop Boys are awesome. It doesn't often snow at Christmas. I will say I like the hold on. I'm trying to remember the name of a song I was just about to say. What is it called? Yeah, probably not a lot of people's favorites, but I like Do They Know It's Christmas? That, Live Aid song that a bunch of British singers did in the 80s. I actually really like that one. I know Dominic the Donkey. Ee-aw, ee-aw, the Italian Christmas donkey. La, 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 la. It's amazing how bad it is considering how talented Paul McCartney is. Little Drummer Boy, I really do like the David Bowie Bing Crosby one, and I really really like the cover of it by Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly pretending to be them, and they don't break character, they just do it exactly like the originals did. La 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 la. Hey, you guys hear about this Christmas donkey? Oh yeah, Thurl Ravenscroft, man. You're a mean one, Mr. Bitch. Isn't that how it goes? Wonderful Christmas Time is great because simply having a wonderful Christmas time is the only Christmas part of that song. It's like someone walks in on him during an unrelated song. Mm. Pablo the reindeer from Mexico. Without him, Santa would not know if it was snowing south of the border. Yes, I remember. You would think I wouldn't, but I do. I've got a big brain, and it remembers useless things. There's a lot of great Christmas songs. There really are. Here's one that I there's two I can think of that I really dislike. That I really dislike. They just great. It's Christmas Time in Washington, which when I lived in the DC area, they played all the time. It's just so treacly. Because it's Christmas time in Washington, America's hometown. Ugh, forget it. Second Starscream you see is actually Skywarp, for what it's worth. Uh, and the other one I really dislike, and I bless Patton Oswalt for covering it, is Christmas Shoes. I just can't stand Christmas Shoes. I think it's so phony, like made to make you feel bad for like some kid, all sort of like a disguised religion song. It's like I'll listen about like Little Drummer Boy and the one about like said the shepherd boy to the mighty king. We three kings of Orient art. Like I'll take the Christmas songs that like I'll take the ones that are straight out of the hymnal. I like a lot of them, but don't try to disguise it like, "Sir, I wanna buy these shoes." If you haven't heard it, Patton Oswalt's bit about Christmas shoes is fantastic, fantastic. People have different opinions. The McCartney song is a timeless classic. The worst is Madonna's cover of Santa Baby. Look, I'll take Eartha Kitt's version, but I don't hate Madonna's cover. I don't hate it. Thank you, Chichi. Have to head out a little early, but thanks for hanging and being cool. Gotta get out. Gotta get this out before I go broke from Christmas shopping. I understand. I understand. Do you hear what I hear? Why do they have the same designs? Um, there's no reason why a bunch of soldiers wouldn't have the same designs. And toy wise, they released some Transformers that were just repaints. That was just the thing that they did at the time to have a few more toys on the shelves. It was Skywarp, Thundercracker, and Starscream. They were all technically the same toy, just recolored. And the cartoon and the comics gave them different personalities, but they were just recolors. As a retail worker, every time Mariah Carey's Christmas song comes on, I end up 1,000 yards staring into the void. I get any song that you hear too much, I can understand that for. Johnny Mathis, Christmas music is classic. Yeah, totally can get with that. I can get with that. Yeah, yeah. Yes, can do. But yeah, I think anything you hear too much is just never going to sound good because you're just like, yeah, I've heard that one. Thanks. I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. Boy, did I love Transformers when I was a little kid. Now, as an adult, I have to admit, the toys from that era and the stories, the ones that I like now a little bit more is GI Joe. But Transformers, I was such a fan of as a kid. My sister can tell you, like I definitely got a good amount of those toys as a kid. I really liked Transformers when I was young. I had a lot of them at one point. Sold them all years ago, so don't have any of them anymore. But that's okay. Sometimes it's nice to sort of unburden yourself from having lots of things. So I don't really regret it. But I don't have a lot of them anymore. Well, I don't have any of them anymore from my childhood. I love the original toys. That was some of my favorite stuff. Working in radio killed my joy around holiday music. Yeah, I guess if you're hearing it too much, I could understand that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I didn't remember that Little Drummer Boy was my favorite. That's interesting because I don't remember that, but I do trust your memory there. I loved the old reel to reel. Yeah, we used to have a reel to reel, which definitely was like, just to be clear, I'm not so old that that was not outdated technology when my sister and I were growing up. But my parents would bust it out once a year at Christmas time. They had like sort of a collection of Christmas hits. If you don't know what a reel to reel is, maybe I maybe not everybody out there even knows what a reel to reel is. Hold on, I'll pull up an image of it just because I bet a bunch of people have no idea what I'm talking about. It's really old. Yep, I found it. Oh my god, they go for so much now, Jeannie. They go for like $1,300 now. Well, it used to be the technology of the day, so it definitely wasn't going for the equivalent of that, just to be clear. But let me pull up basically what ours looked like. Here, I'm going to add something here. Nope, that's not what I meant to add. Stop that one and present a different one. This was a reel to reel. So yeah, like literally like the tape, like hopefully you at least know what a tape player is or a VHS tape. It was on a magnetic tape here, and you had to like thread it through this like it was a movie projector. And so like one would pull from the other, and as it pulled through here, it would play the music. And so yeah, we had a reel to reel, and one of these tapes was just like about, I don't know, 20 Christmas songs or something. And yeah, so that was we got kind of I feel like Jeannie, we got excited, right? Like when it was time to listen to that Christmas thing. We'd probably actually start a fire in our fireplace, which was also something we pretty much never did except for Christmas. Decorate a Christmas tree, and it was just like something we did every year. It was really, really nice. But yeah, my parents had this like before either of us were born, and it was pretty much just sort of tucked in a corner of a living room, but never fully disconnected or anything. It just like it was a little tricky to start up again. But yeah, we would listen to that once a year, Christmas. I liked it. So but yeah, these things go for like $1,300 now, which is just bonkers. All right. Thanks for bearing with me so that I could just sort of explain what we were looking at. Let's see. Yes, we definitely got excited to decorate the house with that music playing. That's what I thought. Yeah, it was nice. It's a nice memory. And I remember like feeling warm because we'd be sitting near the fireplace when we did it. So it's a nice memory. It's a really nice 8 millimeter. My daddy had one. Nice. I understand, but I think a lot of people have just never encountered it in their home life. I would love a reel to reel for home decor. It's yeah, it's retro technology now. You can still buy them apparently, because like when I just looked up that image, I looked and they still sell them. I think like even new, but they're gonna run you about $1,300. So it's not cheap. It's not cheap. I need to look at what Starscream's wings look like, because I just sort of lightly sketched them in and I don't know the pattern. So I'm just looking that up here. Oh, interesting. The Decepticon symbol is upside down. Well, that's interesting. Okay. And these sort of have an extra point to them. So I got to put that in. Huh. How about that? That makes sense. So yeah, the Decepticon symbol, because these would rotate. Huh. How about that? What's your favorite Christmas-related comic? The Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special. Yep. The wing of the plane was reversed when transformed. You would know. Definitely mid-century. You should have seen the shelving unit it was in on our parents' Greek apartment. Yeah, send me a picture of that if you have it. I'd be curious. I sold a similar reel-to-reel track for $500 around 2005. Interesting. All right, so here's what I need to do is I don't want to make a mistake, so I'm gonna like literally flip it upside down and just draw with my pencil first. Oh, I don't even. Now I need to look up what the Decepticon symbol looks like. I don't want to make that. I don't want to make a mistake about that. Oh, okay. I used to draw this symbol as a kid, but I haven't drawn that in years now. But as I look at it, I can literally hear in my mind the music that the cartoon would play when it transitioned scenes. It would show you the symbols flipping, the Decepticon and Autobot symbols flipping, depending on who it was flipping from and to. I hope I'm doing this well enough. I bet a bunch of you know this symbol better than I do, so sorry if I'm sort of looking back and forth trying to get this right. But I don't want to really screw this drawing up at this point. I wonder who designed this symbol. I believe for G.I. Joe, the Cobra symbol was designed by Ron Rudat, who designed a lot of the figures. But I don't know the same bit of history for Transformers, who designed the Autobot and Decepticon symbols. That would be an important bit of history to know, you know? It's probably out there somewhere, but I don't know it. Transition music. I did see Violent Night last year with David Harbour, and I think this year I'll see Silent Night, the John Woo movie that's supposed to not have any real dialogue in it. Oh yeah, this Insecticons. Favorite band or musician? There's a lot. But I have to admit that, like, as I get older, I'm a little less in touch with what's good today. Yeah, I'm trying to think. David Bowie and the Beastie Boys are two that I can listen to a lot, though, for like some favorites. Challenging question in its own way. I've never considered myself a musical expert. I can't play music very well at all. I admire those who can, like my wife. She's so talented. Chrissy can play tons of different instruments. And I love it when she plays. I met her when she was playing violin in a band, electric violin in a rock band. It was cool. Oh, it was designed by George Santos. Thank you. Got to show them in different orientations and sometimes foreshortened. It could be tricky. Yeah, Boston is my favorite band. I love that dirty water. Boston, you're my home. That's actually a song, but not by Boston, I believe. Ever put an Autobot sticker on a car at work? No, I don't have any. You working on fave best comics of 2023 at this point, or is that something you do later in the month? I am already thinking about it. So here's what I'm doing for the. I've got a lot of things that I want to do for the show before the year ends. An episode about the Doctor Who comic, an episode potentially about Scott Pilgrim, since it's got that new show. I'm stuttering a little. Sorry. I think that I think I'm back. An episode about writer David Michelinie and how I think he went too far in making superhero comics too adult. I've got some specific examples. A best of the year, best of 2023. Oh, and also something I haven't done for a couple years, but I had done before, talking about a ridiculous Christmas-themed episode of an old cartoon. So that's like 5 episodes I've got to get done before the end of the year. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's going to be a challenge, but I think I might be able to finish one of those episodes tonight. I'm really close. I'm really, really close. So hopefully I can finish one tonight, and then I've just got like 4 more to do. The best of the year, that's probably okay if it comes out like just after January or something like that, but that's currently what I've sort of put on my own plate to wrap up this year. So many. It's a tough time right now for me, I will admit, in terms of this is the time of year when it's very slow at my day job. Most people are not buying themselves a car in December specific. Oh, I froze. Okay. So I'm having some hiccups. Sorry. Sorry about that. This one's definitely stuttering. The camera that's aimed at me. This one that's showing the art is fine, but the one showing me is stuttering. Hopefully you can at least hear me okay. So yeah, December. Most people are saving their money to get presents for family and friends and things like that. And they're only buying a car usually if they need to. For instance, their car was totaled or it stops working, something like that. So it's very quiet at work, and I'm commissioned. So if I do not sell a car, I don't make money. So it's very quiet at work. On top of that, usually December used to be the best month for YouTube ad revenue, but ads have really dropped off over the last couple of years since the pandemic. So it's tough. I'm not trying to whine or anything like that, just to be clear. It's something that happens every year at this time. But it is challenging in its own way to like all of a sudden see your income just sort of drop off and just go like, well, this is just the time of year you got to tough it out and be prepared. So that's sort of what I'm dealing with, is just stress of trying to create enough episodes and content to get revenue. It's why I did a sponsor about like, a month ago. It's a stressful time to be honest. And I'm, I've got to get presents for people. I've got some really interesting stuff to talk about with David Michelinie. What brand? All brands. I sell used cars at maybe I shouldn't like just name them, even though you can guess. Like it's the biggest used car company in the world. What's the biggest ticket you ever made on a car sale? I get paid the same whether I sell an old Chevy Aveo or if I sell a gigantic 2023 Chevy Suburban. Like, I get paid the same. And I like that. It means that I'm not trying to over or upsell my customer. I'm just trying to get them what they want. So I like that personally. I get this paid the same flat commission no matter what sale. You should work on your videos during the quiet hours at work. Well, they'd fire me if I did that because I still need to be available. How did the pandemic change YouTube? Interesting question. How did it? Uh, it just seems like ad revenue has dropped. Um, the first, it was like the first 3 years I did this, it was pretty consistent, and December would always be a really strong month because more people would advertise, like big companies would advertise. And then the last 3 years, I just think that, I still get ad revenue, but like it's dropped. And and some of that is on me, just to be clear. I need to um every once in a while have a video that hits bigger than others if I want to make decent money and bring in new subscribers and keep everything growing at a good rate. I've had steady views this year, which I'm grateful for. I've had a few videos do pretty good. I haven't had anything spectacular this year. And so maybe that's on me, not like necessarily giving the audience exactly what they want or need. Um, Thank you, Gene. I will take a look at it after the show. I'm using my phone as the camera, and it's actually like slowing down, so I can't do both at once. I'm not. I wouldn't do crypto or NFT. I turn down. First of all, those don't really come through offers for those anymore. I turn down so many for so long. I turn down most ads. I just don't think that it's the kind of stuff that would be appropriate for my viewers. And I don't like doing ads because you have to get approvals and stuff. I'd rather just sort of be my own boss and just keep everything moving forward. So mostly, I just don't like doing it. But so mostly I just yeah, I just ignore that stuff. But what was I gonna say? Darn it, I lost my train of thought. I was trying to like recapture it by just talking. I can't think of what I was gonna say. Oh well, it couldn't have been that important if I forgot. Oh, just that like there's always turnover with my Patreon. People come. I don't necessarily have lots of exclusives or anything to Patreon, so I think some people are like, that's okay. Here's $2. Thanks. See ya. And that's fine. That's totally fine. Nobody owes me anything. But in order to sort of like keep it at like a decent level, I need to have every once in a while a video that hits kind of bigger. So I don't know. Maybe I need to do a few more episodes on like Spider-Man and Batman and X-Men. I don't know. Let's see. Just want to say thank you so much for putting me on to Pluto on Netflix. Blown away completely. It's so good. You got to read the manga too. The manga is incredible. Anyway, it's been a good year. It's been a good year. It's just it isn't as big as it was like at a certain point. That's okay. That's okay. I love doing it. What video has done the best? You know what? And that's the funny thing is like I can never predict which ones will do like the best out of all of them. Like for instance, I made a video about Vince Coletta. I didn't think anybody would care about an inker. I just thought it was an interesting sort of story and artist to talk about. And that one is my best performing. Ultimatum is also good, possibly because I think I put the word like worst or something in the title. The algorithm does like that, but I try not to clickbait too much for comic trope stuff. So yeah, those are a couple of them that did well, but those are like old now, like I need to have some new fresh stuff. Some videos do pretty well, but also have limited ads because of like what the content is. So if it's got a little too much sex or violence in it, YouTube won't put most ads on it. So that's something you need to be careful about. Oh yeah, I definitely want to cover ElfQuest. I have the full run digitally, so that's one I've always considered doing. I'll get to that at some point. Grant Morrison's JLA run, that could be fun. That could be fun. What Silver Surfer comic do you think is the most emotional or thought provoking? Probably the issue where Loki, was it Loki or was it Mephisto? It was Mephisto, right? Tricks Thor into battling Silver Surfer. It's good. Maybe I'd cover it. I'm aware of it, so maybe. With the new books coming out at this point, do you think some G.I. Joe videos would do well? There's a finite audience for that. But I like covering stuff that I care about. So I think as long as you do anything with some passion, people will like. I think most of my videos have a good amount of sort of a evergreen uh content to them, as in like even if people don't discover them right away, if they discover another video of mine, I've got like what I've got is like a lot of people are always discovering my channel, and they tend to go and watch almost like all of my old videos, like or at least a bunch of them. So that's where I do well is people finding uh my channel and then like just sort of binging my content, and I like that they can do that. That makes me happy. I feel like I'm talking about myself too much. How and what do you expect the Invincible Roundtable video? Well, it's been out for over a week. It did about what I'd expect. You know, I was hoping that video would get at least, like 20,000 views in a week. I think it did more like what, 15 or so. I don't know. It did okay, but I had fun doing it. That was definitely doing something different. It didn't require quite as much effort. So I really enjoyed doing that. I don't know if I'll cover the entire history of Doctor Who comics, but I think you'll like the next video I make. I think you're gonna really like it. It's gonna be up either tonight or tomorrow night. Boneless wing nuggets or wings? Boneless. The religious characters in comics. You know what I'd be interested in covering is like this one um, Christian publisher that was out for briefly at one point, and they got the rights from Archie to make their own Archie comics, but that were religious. So it's all just like the kids from Riverdale proselytizing to people and talking about how God makes them happy. So if you've ever wanted to see Betty, Veronica, Jughead, Archie, Reggie, all just like talking about how great Jesus is, um, do I have the video for you someday? I think that'll be interesting. I am terrible with remembering names. Me too, EJ. I watched a bunch of your videos until I realized that I know this guy. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I was so happy that I got to meet you at New York Comic Con 2022. I've just admired your work for so long, and I still do. So it was really nice. I know it was brief, but I really do admire you, EJ, and it makes me happy to know that you jump into these sometimes. It really makes me happy. Chick Tracts. I did an episode on that pretty early on. Pretty early on. Where did you get your shirt? Some store in Japan. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact one that I got this at. It's not. It was from my most recent trip to Japan. I picked it up there. Shoot, I don't remember. It might have been at a comic book store like Mandarake. I can't remember. Frobisher from Doctor Who comics. I did make an episode about Absalom Doc, and that's pretty obscure, right? Like that, as far as Doctor Who stuff goes, Absalom Doc, Dalek Killer. I made an episode about that at one point. So if you love Steve Dillon or Doctor Who, Folks, I recommend watching my video about Absalom Doc Dalek Killer. The reason I'm interested in the original Marvel Big Six is because I actually want to reboot them. Yeah, there's some potential there. Thanks to that Lisa video, I still cringe at chick tracks whenever I find one in an odd place. They're awful. How was the Depeche Mode concert? Thanks for asking. I had such a good time. That was so nice of my friend John to invite me. He had an extra ticket, so I got to go see Depeche Mode last weekend. They were incredible. They're the two guys that have been there since the beginning are 61 and 63, but they're in really good shape. Super energetic concert. Great sound, great lights. Just, I don't go to a lot of concerts, I have to admit, but boy, did I have a great time at that one. I had a really good time. Thank you. Interested in doing a video on Poison Elves. I'm aware of Poison Elves. I haven't read Poison Elves. So my excitement would probably come once I get to read it. Yeah, I can't claim to be an expert on Poison Elves right now. But I probably should cover more indie stuff here and there. That said, when I cover that, it generally doesn't get a lot of views, but it keeps my excitement and interest in comics high. And so that's important too. And it reaches new people that like that thing, and then hopefully will stick around for my opinions on some other books. I like doing a mix. It just keeps me interested. Oh, cool. It was sold out, that's for sure. Yup, I remember. I was very excited to see Steve Dillon art pop up in an actual episode of Doctor Who and to have him acknowledged in canon. That was fun. Paste Pop Pete episode titled Greatest Comics Villain of All Time. I think Strange Brain Parts recently covered Poison Elves. Okay. That's entirely possible. And I will say that, just because another channel covers it does not mean that I will not. But if I see that, it does mean that I will delay it because I don't want to tread the same ground right at the same time. It just, I don't think there's that much of an audience for comic book reviews that people want to see the same topic covered in depth, right away. They might at some point, but most people want a break. But yeah, we've been going over 2 hours. I guess I could wrap this up in a sec. Congrats on getting out to 2 concerts. That's nice. I got to 1. Yeah, I feel like this thing's just about ready to present to my friend that asked me to draw this. The only thing I could do is sort of do a big background, but I'm nervous about screwing it up. Decisions. Uh, Thank you all for being here and talking and asking interesting questions like this. It really makes me happy. And again, I recommend checking out when you get a chance the uh, Brian LCS channel to see the comic book community awards and that kind of stuff, because that was just a really positive, nice thing that happened to me this week. I was really flattered. It's really nice. It's not something I expected. Uh, Felt really nice. Felt really, really nice. What's being said here? Getting some money. Ah, I can afford food tonight. Thank you both to Mandela Butterfly and Larry Karwitz. Um, I color for fun. What I really enjoy coloring with is like, what do you call it? Like the alcohol based markers, because they blend well. That's really fun. Oh my god, I'm so jealous, Chem Dog. That's so cool. Never saw Billy in color. Do I color my work? Sometimes just for fun. I probably won't do this though because I don't have a lot of confidence in it, and this is for somebody else. This isn't for myself. So I want to do the best I can without potentially ruining anything. Uh, I know that sounds like paranoid or something. You know, I'm just trying to do the best I can without screwing anything up. Oh my god, yes. Yeah. Larry Hama has like some pretty complex ideas, and I think people would be surprised if they read his entire GI Joe run, just sort of how it doesn't fall into any neat orderly thing. It might actually make you think about a whole range of politics and the implications thereof. I really admire his GI Joe run quite a bit. I think I've said that several times in the past, but it's true. I really think that there's something special within it, and the action just moves at such a good clip. Just trying to hint at like some of the rocky wasteland that these guys are on. I don't know. Maybe that's enough for what I can do with this. I think I think I'm ready to call it on this piece. Other than like I'm just marking up especially Megatron at this point, show that he's been through a battle. Yeah, I think I'm done. Whoa. Can't believe it's still going. Thought I missed tonight's episode for sure. Oh, gold, silver, bronze. Let's go with best X-Men costume designs. All right, so we are talking my top 3, gold, silver, bronze for X-Men costumes. That is a challenging one because there have been some great costumes. I'm thinking this through. I think even though Wolverine's like popular and it might seem cliche, I think I'm going to put his original yellow and blue look on, but the revised version where Dave Cockrum sort of cleaned up his mask to be like what we recognize now, because that's a pretty iconic mask when you see it in profile. I think that that's a really cool animalistic angular look. um it's got points to it, just he's got claws, but he's got like points to his costume from his boots to his mask. I think that that is my number one. Number two is going to be Cyclops, who's had many great looks, but I'll basically say his original look by Jack Kirby. Blue skull cap, visor. I think that that's pretty iconic. Everything has been a riff on that. And it's interesting when Jim Lee like shows his hair being free, but I like Cyclops with his skull cap. I really like that. John Cassaday did a version of that for Astonishing X-Men. I really liked. And number 3, I'm going to go with Storm's punk look, her mohawk. That was pretty radical, and I'm pretty sure that that was Paul Smith that drew that first, if I'm remembering right. I think so. I could do Super Crooks, but you know what? My buddy Xavier Godzilla Mendoza did one just a couple days ago. So if you're curious, I have not seen that yet. Like Super Crooks is what I'm talking about. So I'd recommend going to Godzilla Mendoza's channel and watching his video on Super Crooks. That's what I'd recommend right now. I hope Skybound gets the G.I. Joe reprints going sooner than later. Yeah, that would be nice. You have those same three? Oh, Havoc is great. Like Havoc, Nightcrawler, uh, in a way, Cable. He's very 90s, but like, there's some great costumes. Beast in his blue, original, like sort of blue animalistic form. That's a great look. Yeah. That's a tough one, but thank you for the challenging question. I like that. That was fun. I guess I'm content with this. I think I will call this, and I'm just probably going to do a couple little dots here and there to represent damage and dirt and texture, but I think I'm done. I think I'm done. So there we go. There's my Transformers sketch cover. Starscream triumphant over Megatron. I hope that the guy I did it for likes it. We'll see. I'm flattered that he trusted me, to give it a shot. That's really nice. Sort of drawing some damage coming out of Megatron, I think. Looks like this arm is especially busted up. So maybe I'll just draw a couple little sparks coming off. Give it a little extra. I don't know. Magneto, Rogue, Colossus, good ones. Polaris. I just put Mohawk Storm above Wolverine and Cyclops third. That's fair. Original Blue Beast, yes. Starscream triumphant for the moment. Looks like Thundercracker. EJ! It probably does to you. You're the expert on drawing Transformers, so maybe this was the best I could do. Haven't drawn Transformers a lot, at least not since I was 10. If you're curious about that, I show the first 30 pages of a Transformers comic I made when I was 10 on Comic Tropes. I made an episode about that. It is pretty embarrassing. But this is really stuttering, so I think it's a good time to call it a night. Yeah, thank you all for joining me. Keep your eye on the Comic Tropes channel because there's an episode that should drop pretty soon. I am very close to wrapping up the edit on that one. Oh my God. I was close to wrapping up the edit and part of the video file was corrupted. So I had to go back and refilm it. Hopefully you're not going to be able to tell any difference. I think I've matched everything, but boy, that was not fun. All right. That's plenty from me. Thank you all. Let's go get some dinner or some sleep or whatever you have been holding out on. Thank you for joining me. It really means a lot to me. And keep reading comics. Double salute. Whoa. Whoa. All those salutes for you. See ya.